Everyone's yelling about Isaac Dulgarian quitting, but the real story is harsher. In modern sports, suspicious betting doesn't just end a fight, it ends a career overnight. Dulgarian went from -250 favorite to cut by Monday morning. Sportsbooks refunded bets. That's not normal, that's a fire alarm. And it rings louder because the NBA just had an FBI sting bag, a coach and a guard over gambling schemes. When money flows faster than oversight, integrity becomes a business problem, not a moral one. And the market responds by erasing anyone who even smells like risk. Observation: casual viewers saw a botched takedown, back exposure, and a quick rear naked choke. Dulgarian looked lost. Daniel Cormier and Michael Chiesa called it white belt stuff, trash, and fans clipped the sequence like it proved intent. Meanwhile, the odds slid hard from about -250 to -154 before the walk. Caesars and others offered refunds to people who bet on Dulgarian. UFC released him almost immediately. On the surface, that's an ugly performance, suspicious line movement, and a promotion making an example. Okay, but actually this is what it means. The betting market has become the integrity department's early warning radar. Leagues used to wait for commissions and investigators. Now, anomalous handles, synchronized prop action, and last-hour line drift trigger instant reputational math. If the market can't trust the product, sponsors, media partners, and regulators won't either. So the UFC's calculus wasn't just did he try. It was, can we afford the perception risk while IC360 audits this? In a world where the NBA just watched indictments drop after sportsbooks flagged patterns, leniency looks like negligence. Evidence, Part 1. Line movement is the first receipt. Best fight odds data had Dulgarian's number collapsing pre-fight, exactly the window where fix attempts historically show their hand. Sportsbooks don't refund out of kindness, they refund to protect market trust and signal cooperation with integrity monitors. Caesars announced cash credits for losing Dulgarian tickets. DraftKings said it's investigating. Those public statements are tell books accept variance. They don't accept coordinated asymmetrical information advantages. When multiple operators converge on weird, that's smoke worth treating like fire. Evidence, Part 2. The UFC publicly confirmed a thorough review via IC360. That's the integrity vendor loop sports, now depend on live data feeds, alerts on correlated props and crossbook anomalies. And the precedent here matters. In 2022, Derek Minner and coach James Krause became the cautionary tale, late line crash, early TKO, and safe suspensions, and a permanent chill on anyone linked to Krause. Dulgarian trained under that orbit before moving on, which, unfair or not, colors perception inside risk teams. Evidence, Part 3. Look across the aisle. The NBA's recent FBI sting didn't start with wiretaps. It started with betting patterns on props and timing around insider info. Terry Rozier allegedly telegraphed an early exit. Over $200,000 piled onto unders in a single game. Chauncey Billups got pulled into a separate mafia-tinged poker mess. The thread is consistent, data flags behavior, then law enforcement and leagues act fast. The NBA invoked Article 35 for permanent disqualification power. That's the model. Protect the asset by amputating the risk. So when viewers say he quit, the sharper read is, the market lost confidence, and the business moved to defend itself. Now here's the part everyone glosses over. When integrity gets shaky, the first trimmer isn't moral outrage, it's contract language. Sponsors don't buy fighters, they buy brand adjacency to a trusted product. Most top-tier sponsorships include morals clauses and integrity triggers. If a sport becomes a headline risk, CFOs pull exposure or renegotiate down. That's why sportsbooks issuing refunds matters beyond PR. Refunds are a preemptive reputational hedge. They're telling partners, we can stabilize market trust. If they can't, sponsors don't wait around. Media rights react the same way, but with bigger decimal points. Distributors and streamers price rights on predictable audience, advertiser demand, and minimal scandal drag. When integrity doubts creep in, two things happen. Insurance premiums increase on the rights package, and the risk-adjusted multiplier on the next deal shrinks. Even a half turn on the multiple can vaporize tens of millions across a cycle. That's the quiet tax of suspicious activity. You pay for it in your next negotiation. And the industry invented a band-aid to keep the machine humming. Integrity fees and vendor ecosystems. Leagues position integrity partners like IC360 as proof of work. Vendors monitor bet flows across books, flag anomalies, and feed alerts back to leagues and regulators. The cost of that stack gets amortized into sponsorship pricing and media rights protection. In other words, integrity becomes a line item justified by loss avoidance. It's cheaper to fund surveillance than to lose a primetime slot or watch a blue-chip sponsor press pause. But wait, it gets worse for athletes on the margins. Sponsors and rights holders don't micromanage fighting technique, they manage perceived risk. So if a mid-card fighter's name pops in a betting controversy, The most financially rational move for the league is swift separation. Show your partners you can amputate risk with no hesitation. That's the Dulgarian signal. Whether intent exists is a legal question, perception is a contract question. The promotion's decision tells everyone in the value chain, we protect the product first. There's a second-order effect on sportsbook relationships too. Books now co-fund content, studios, and shoulder programming tied to leagues. That means they're not just vendors, they're quasi-media partners. When they issue refunds and open investigations, they're doing two things: mitigating customer churn and proving to leagues they're aligned on integrity. If a league drags its feet while books are proactive, that league looks unserious and risks worse terms and co-marketing deals. Cooperation becomes a currency. Speed is part of the exchange rate. Media partners are watching another metric: prop volatility. The NBA scandal showed how props the bite-sized markets fans love are the soft underbelly for insider abuse. If props become a reputational sinkhole, broadcasters anticipate regulator heat, advertiser discomfort, and a possible pullback in betting integrated broadcasts. That threatens a core growth thesis for modern sports media. Engagement loops built on live odds and same-game parlays. A single scandal can stall those integrations, and stall equals dollars left on the table. Integrity fees, controversial as they are, become easier to justify in this climate. Books hate them on principle, but if fees fund shared surveillance that prevents refunds and probes, everybody treats them like insurance. The alternative is worse: regulatory scrutiny, class action vibes, and ratings hits. Remember, leagues and books share one existential need: the perception that a fair market exists. If that perception erodes, casual bettors churn, whales cap exposure, and acquisition costs spike. The CAC math gets ugly fast. Here's the business bottom line: integrity isn't a slogan, it's a price protector. You don't guard integrity just because it's virtuous. You guard it because it props up sponsorship yield, rights multiples, and the gambling-led fan engagement flywheel. If a fighter, coach, or player becomes a risk vector, the machine isolates the variable. Careers end so balance sheets don't.
Okay, let's get practical. If the goal is protecting athletes and preserving market trust, policy can't just be ban and punish. You need layered defenses that assume humans make mistakes while making manipulation expensive and detectable.
First, mandatory pre-clearance and disclosure. Every athlete and coach must disclose injuries, training camp anomalies, and material personal constraints to a secure league portal 48 hours before an event, with updates locked at T6 hours. Access is tightly permissioned. The point isn't public transparency, it's reducing information asymmetry that fuels suspicious line crashes. Regulators get audit trails. Integrity vendors get de-identified flags to benchmark live movement against declared risks. Second, hard betting boundaries with active verification. Zero betting on your own sport, period. And KYC attestation for athletes, coaches, and Tier 1 staff across regulated books. Books receive hash lists of prohibited bettors from leagues via a trusted third party. Violations trigger immediate holds, not retroactive wrist slaps. This protects athletes from just one parlay lapses and throttles bad faith actors using friends' accounts. Third, real-time prop throttling. If correlated props start moving in abnormal patterns, think unders tied to rumored early exits. Books automatically ratchet limits and freeze specific markets pending human review. Leagues codify this throttle protocol in their data distribution agreements, so operators know the guardrails in advance. Fewer refunds, fewer public fiascos. Fourth, whistleblower safe harbor with bounties. If an athlete hears of a fix attempt, there needs to be a confidential channel, clear legal support, and meaningful financial reward for credible tips. Safe harbor should include leniency for minor betting violations disclosed during a tip, so people aren't punished for coming forward. This flips the economics. Snitching becomes more profitable than scheming. Fifth, independent adjudication with rapid timelines. Set up an integrity tribunal separate from league ops that can rule within 7 days on provisional actions, suspensions, results holds, purse escrow. Publish anonymized case summaries quarterly. Athletes get due process, partners get speed, and the public gets evidence that decisions aren't arbitrary. Sixth, education that treats athletes like stakeholders, not suspects. Annual scenario-based training led by former bettors, integrity analysts, and prosecutors covers social engineering, burner phones, crypto on-ramps, and soft pressure from acquaintances. Tie compliance to benefits. Lower insurance deductibles, faster bout bookings, and eligibility for performance bonuses. Make good behavior pay. Seventh, contract design with calibrated consequences. Replace one-size-fits-all nuclear clauses with tiered penalties. Negligence, reckless disregard, and intentional manipulation, each with defined outcomes. This reduces the incentive to hide minor issues and preserves severe punishment for actual fixing. Sponsors can align their morals clauses to the same tiers to avoid overreaction spirals. 8. Data governance and vendor accountability. Leagues must audit their own integrity vendors, model accuracy, false positive rates, and incident response speed. Publish KPIs to partners. If a vendor misses a pattern that triggers a scandal, penalties should offset sponsor make goods. Incentives should point in one direction. Catch it early or pay for the mess. Finally, align public messaging with policy. When an event triggers a probe, issue a standardized statement: what's being reviewed, the timeline, what markets were throttled, and when results become final. Uncertainty is what kills trust. Clear clocks and consistent language let books, media, and fans hold posture while the system works. Do all of that, and you protect athletes from being collateral damage while proving to sponsors, broadcasters, and bettors that the game they're buying is still the one being played. Here's my read. The second the market doubts the fight, the fighter becomes expendable, because integrity is the product and careers are just components. Tell me where you stand. Was the UFC too fast or exactly right? Drop your take and cite your evidence. I'll pin the smartest counter. If you work in sportsbooks, media, or brand safety, what would you change first? Prop throttles, disclosure rules, or contract clauses? Subscribe if you want blunt, business-first breakdowns of sports power plays. New videos weekly, no fluff, just receipts.